Well, greetings, everybody, and welcome to part three, the third and final part of our tape. And this part three is dedicated specifically to Carol August, to Dana Lovelace, and to Tom Hersant. Now, once again, any and all are invited to listen into this. As I've always said, we got nothing to hide, nothing to hide here. What did you know and when did you know it? Absolutely nothing to hide. But I did want to direct this to Carol August, Dana Lovelace, and Tom Hersant for their kind greetings and emails. So this is answering them. Carol, I hope you're doing well, you're feeling fine, your health is good. And I want to thank you very much for getting in touch with me after all these long years. It has been a long time, although it's passed very quickly. It seems like only yesterday, but it has been a long, long time, and for you to think of me was very kind. I'm sorry I was under these circumstances, but I want to thank you again for thinking of me, and I hope you'll pass along these thoughts to the following people. Of course, first of all, to PETA. PETA, I was very sorry to hear that your mom passed away. I know that you were very close to her. Your mom was a great lady. We all liked her. All the coworkers liked her. She was a very kind person and a very warm person. We had a lot of fun when your mom was with us. All the coworkers did. And I remember she used to speak in funny terms. She'd use these funny phrases like, call Jimmy Nalgatoria. And one thing that always cracked me up was that everybody was very respectful to your mom, and they called her Ms. Gonzalez. But Avery really bonded with your mom. She was good buds. And she always said, yo, Paz, hey, Paz, how's it going? And they were real good buddies. So I always got kind of a kick out of that. Your mother was very lively and fun, but also a very strong person and a very thoughtful woman. We were at a gathering at Roman Way in the summer of 2001, and she said something with a lot of foresight that stuck with me, really struck me. She said, you know, when I was growing up, people were a lot stronger. We had to be. Life was more difficult. She said, people are not strong today. And I have this bad feeling that there is some calamity will occur and people won't know how to act. Well, sure enough, a couple of months later, September 11th, 2001 took place. And I thought about your mom's words, and I just thought, wow, what a lot of insight that Paz Gonzalez had. We'll miss your mom, and again, I'm very sorry that she passed away. So, PETA, you were a good daughter, and you had your mom for a long time. I guess that's as much as we can ask for in this lifetime. I was shocked to hear the death of Jim Wallace. Untimely death. Jim always struck me as a very youthful guy. That's why it was all the more difficult to accept. If you would see Jim and hear his voice, you'd think he was 10 years younger than he was. A very upbeat guy and a very, very youthful appearance. And that's what I'll always remember about Jim. So, very sorry to hear of his untimely passing. Carol, I hope you pass along these condolences, and I want to wish Jim's family my condolences, and also to PETA. I send you my best. Again, thanks, Carol, for thinking of me. I'd like to talk to Dana now, Dana Lovelace. And Dana, thank you very much. This is the video letter that I promised you some 7 months ago. Sorry about that. You and Tom will be happy to know I'm still working on cleaning off my desk here. It's taken me 50 years and may take another decade or so, but I'll get it done one of these days. So here's a little bit of a belated letter. First of all, again, on a serious note, sorry to hear about this, but thank you for informing me. I was sorry to hear about the passing of Pat Nordstrom. And Pat was a great coworker, always kind, always friendly. So please pass along my condolences. 72's young in this in our time, and sorry to hear that she passed away. The story of your nephews is quite interesting. That fascinating trip they took, And I wonder if they took a blog and pictures and all that sort of thing, because the trip all the way through Southeast Asia really sounded fascinating. Chris, I want to tell you about this. I offer you my congratulations. What a tremendous feat to hear that you lost weight. Now, I can relate because I ran into a problem myself. As you know, if you like Thai food, Thailand being the source of the situation, you are the kid in the candy store. Also in Thailand, I would say there are a couple of million of people from India who have immigrated here 150 years ago, so they're terrific Indian restaurants. The Italian restaurants here are, the owners are direct from Italy, so it's a little bit different than our, Little Italy type of food, but it's fantastic. And food in this country is a religion, all different types and a lot of it. So as a result, I ballooned up to 232 pounds. Well, I was always proud of the fact that I was 120 over 80 in my blood pressure. I'd always get it checked, and it was like clockwork, 120 over 80. Well, I came in this time for a check, and the doctor went insane. He said, "You're 150 over 95. I got to get you on pills right away." And it freaked me out, so I said, "I'll tell you what, Doc, let me get into a weight loss program. I'll exercise. We'll try to do it naturally." So I got into an exercise program. I lost 16 pounds, gained eight of it back, so I now weigh 224. So when I heard about your triumph, I really salute you. Chris, that's great news. Keep pressing, and I salute you on a tremendous completion of a goal, which is weight loss. Dana, your grandsons sound quite interesting, like very nice young men. You mentioned that one likes to be read to, and I think they're going to grow up to be fine gentlemen. Send your sons my best, and to your grandsons. Another reason I think about you, Dana, is because if you're into turtles, Thailand is the place. Thailand is the home to all kinds of species of turtles. They always have articles on turtle hatcheries, new species of turtles, types of turtles. And there's even a location here called Koh Tao, Turtle Island. So when you think of turtles and think of Dana, why you think of Thailand. I'm not saying I'm going to say something. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be juvenile. I'm not trying to be ridiculous. But there has been a terrible outbreak, and you can follow this on the internet. It's true. Not trying to be funny, not trying to be stupid. But there has been a terrible outbreak here amongst tropical turtles of the herpes virus. So make of that what you will, and not trying to be ridiculous. I just thought that, interest in turtles, you got to know the whole story. Your hobbies sound very interesting. I like the quilting and all that. Sound like you guys have done quite a bit of interesting travel. So keep up the traveling. And who invented retirement? I mean, I got to shake this man's hand. Am I right? Am I right about this? So I hope you're enjoying it, and wish you all the best, Anna. Thank you for that last email. I'll try to make it quicker next time. I'd like to say hello to Tom Hersant. And again, Tom, I offer my apologies in the first part of this tape for not getting back to you on Instagram? Was it? On LinkedIn, yeah. So there's a reason for it, and we'll get in touch. There's some way to keep in touch, and when they figure out better security, I'll become a LinkedIn member. What I'd like to do is address an answer to one of your interesting questions. And that is a question that I got from a guy I was drinking coffee with. And the question was, "What do you do all day long?" And my answer was, over a cup of coffee, "I'm doing it." I'll give you a rundown of what I do all day long. And it's the old story. I used to hear from retirees, "I don't know how I managed everything while I was working." And it's the same thing here. Believe it or not, I'm kind of very busy. Now, it's in a leisurely way, of course, but I am very busy. As a matter of fact, I got like 50 lightweight things to do. Sew buttons. My belt needs to be sewn. Send out letter, that kind of thing. 50 of those, and if I got to it, I could probably get to it in a few weeks. And then I have 20 major things to do. I haven't driven a car in years, for example, which is weird. I got to get to that. For some reason, I just do not have the time. It's like you have all the time in the world and you do not have the time. So here's kind of a rundown of what I'm doing here. The first thing is 3 hours of what has been called my American self-improvement trip, or otherwise known as Abraham Maslow's self-actualization, where I try to educate myself, do all the things that I didn't do, I should have been learning in school. When you're 14, you can't learn anything, even in college. But now, with time, I am getting into self-actualization. For example, art. I could never draw a stick figure. So I bought one of these books. Anybody can draw, and work on my art about 15 minutes a day. Here's some of my handiwork. Thank you, thank you. Here's some of my handiwork. And I start the day with 30 minutes of exercise. But that 30 minutes is 50 minutes. We have a pool here. So when you exercise for 30 minutes, you got to warm up, you got to cool down. There's 30 minutes is 50 minutes. Then I get into science. I was always sucked at science, so I felt that I needed to learn science. And now, for example, I've learned about the works of James Clerk Maxwell. James Clerk Maxwell was the forerunner to Albert Einstein, and he was uncanny in his coming up with the approximation of the speed of light years and years before Einstein. Along with his cohort, an Englishman by the name of Heaviside, he came up with the 20 most important theorems in electromagnetism. Heaviside boiled them down to 4 theorems. And this led the way to the modern era of electricity and electromagnetism, and to the discovery of radio waves by Hertz of Germany. So, see, we're getting there. We're getting there. We ain't no slouch. We learn some science, so I study some science every day. Language. I dedicate 45 minutes a day to Spanish. And believe it or not, you can speak some Spanish here. There are a lot of Spanish tourists because they've seen Europe, Latin America. I don't want to get in trouble here, but it's kind of similar to Spain, so they've seen that. So they come here to Thailand, so you get to speak with some Spanish tourists. And then I try to learn 2-3 words of Thai every day. So I dedicate 3 hours to self-improvement. And it's not some kind of strict thing where I get up, 10 to 1, self-improvement, 3 hours. It just, during the day, it will come out to that. And it's great to finally, after all these years, really learn stuff. Lunch then, or brunch, whatever you want to call it, or late brunch, is a very interesting part of the day because I have a hobby here, Tom, in Thailand, where I try to go to a different restaurant every day. Now, it doesn't work out every day, but I go to a lot of new restaurants. I've been to, I'd say, 500 restaurants here in Bangkok. And along with my travels in Laos and Cambodia and the Philippines, probably 600 new restaurants. So it's a fascinating hobby. You get to go to these interesting places. So you see people from Thailand, India, all different kinds of cooking. And it usually takes 30 minutes to find a place because I've covered all the places around here. One day I had to take a 30-minute ride out to the airport just to find new restaurants. And lunch is a leisurely affair, to say the least. Usually between finding the place and having something to eat, I read 2, not 1, but 2 English newspapers, English language newspapers. So lunch is about a 3-hour affair. About 4 nights a week here, many nights a week here, I get together with a group of guys. We're known as the expats. And we're kind of a fraternity. And there's a little background to this. When I was in college, 1969, 1970, it was the hippie era, and nobody would think of joining a fraternity. Fraternities were out. who belong to fraternities, rednecks, right-wing guys, narcs. So you wouldn't join a fraternity. But with my fraternity now, I feel like I didn't miss the fraternity experience. Fascinating group of guys, and we get together. There's always a bunch of hijinks, gossip, and very interesting discussion about what's going on in Thailand. Travel. For example, I'm going to go to Ethiopia. Now, you wouldn't normally think about going to Ethiopia, but the expats, the fraternity, turned me on to Ethiopia. As I mentioned earlier, we got all kinds of guys. One guy was the premier fashion buyer in Australia. We had a special forces guy. We have a professional gambler. Quite an interesting group of folks. One guy went to MIT, a math genius, kind of a fallen guy, but a math genius nonetheless. He has patents. And so it's very interesting. You get together with the guys, and 2 hours pass like nothing. And then there's the case of the intangibles. Again, you can't do it like you did in school days or working days, 9 p.m. to 12 midnight, do an intangible. But crazy things come up which make traveling and being in a foreign country so interesting. I'll give you a couple of examples. I like this song that I heard very much, a local song in Thailand. I liked it so much that I did an English rendition of it. And as coincidence would have it, I was looking on the internet and I ran into this singer who's from Thailand but was raised in America, does Elvis Presley impersonations, a female singer, and also sings in Thai and sings in English. So I sent her an email and said, would you be interested in talking to a record company and doing our song? She said, great idea, let's meet. So I met with her and she brought her mother. Now, her mom was like, I would compare her to a background singer for the Supremes. In the 1970s, she sang background in Thai movies and that kind of thing. Meeting with them was very interesting. You could tell they had some say in Thailand, some clout and some cash. They nice looking group of people. They were very nice, and the mom said, it's a great idea, but I'd hate to see you get hurt. She said, we don't have copyright here. Somebody could easily steal it from you. And the young woman, the singer, said, well, I tell you what, I talked to the record company, write a letter, and let's see what they say. So I wrote them a letter. Unfortunately, they didn't accept it, and I can kind of understand why. They're so inundated here with English language music and writing and celebrities and movies and stuff. They do want to kind of, bring to the forefront their own brand. So you can often hear in a restaurant, you'll hear Thai music, Thai singers, Thai pop singers. So it was worth a try, and that was great to do. Here's another crazy example of what do you do all day long? I had some errands to do one day, a couple of years ago, and I'm taking a taxi, and all of a sudden we ran into this traffic, and I saw a lot of young people and a ticket window and a lot of hoopla, and it just dawns on you, hey, this has got to be some kind of college thing. So I said, what's going on here? And they said, hey, man, this is the big deal. This is it. It was their UCLA USC soccer game. Thammasat versus Chulalongkorn University in their yearly soccer match. So I said, hey, screw the errands. I got to see this thing. So I went to the soccer game. I don't like soccer, but it turned out to be a great game. And they had their pre-game and post-game is bizarre. They have religious statues of Buddha coming in, and their cheerleaders were in long evening dresses, and the guy cheerleaders were in tuxedos, and they have these card shows where they insult the other team. So I was witness to the big event, the big rivalry, Thammasat versus Chulalongkorn U. And again, you don't plan, oh, I'm going to take 4 hours and see this. There was another situation I just happened to be reading in the paper where it was the Thailand versus Malaysia soccer game for the Southeast Asian Championship. So I got to go see this. It takes an hour to get there, an hour to get back. And, the game was about 3 hours. By the time I talked to a friendly local scalper, and 80,000 fans, the whole bit. So these are the things that make your time wonderful, being an expat.